Now, if I couldn't convince you, fine. Not going to take it personally, maybe a little bit. But we're lucky because we have someone here, a fellow, a knight, Dan Banjamin, who can actually say that he left your ranks to go start a world with, I can tell you, not much of a blueprint, right? In an industry, podcasting and whatnot, that just didn't really exist, didn't really have the form that it has today, and has been able to build quite the empire ever since. So if you can't take it from me, fine. Well, here is one of your own, a fellow knight, Dan Banjamin. Please clap it up and come on up here to the stage, Dan. Thank you. There you go. Check, check. All right. Excellent. Well, thank you for coming, first and foremost.
Sure.
And normally I say that the alum has literally been in this building, or was in this building, the same building you all were in. Is that true?
This particular building did not exist when I was
okay.
there. So.
But
nor did the parking lots that were parked in, they were all very packed.
Yeah. And so, well, we were joking about this earlier, so UCF has really come up, talk about what it's been like as an alum to see with, I suspect, great pride, how much this university has evolved.
Oh yeah, it's changed dramatically. And the funny thing for me is that I remember there was a comedian years and years ago who was talking about, you always try to skip school on a day when nothing's going to go on and nothing's going to be cool, and it was a high school thing. Mm-hmm. And he said, "Oh yeah, I saw you missed school on Wednesday." He's like, "Yeah, we had a pep rally, Zeppelin played, and that's kind of the way you feel when you graduate, and then you get everything. I mean, we had dirt parking lots. It was mostly commuter school. I think we had maybe 20,000, mostly driving in and parking." And now we're 60,000, is that what they were telling me here? And it's just crazy to see it grow. Culpeper was a QB on the last year of school that I was going here. And then, the team got good after I left. And so it's funny, but I lived in Orlando. I've actually relocated to Austin about 2 or 3 years ago. But still was here in town. It was amazing because once the team got good, I was like, yeah, let's get season tickets. But aside from that kind of thing, it's amazing to see how the college itself has grown and how people are so, I remember when I was here, the computer lab was like 8 max, and they didn't always network with each other. It was such a different world. And now the facilities that you guys have here and the infrastructure that's here and the community that's here and the way that this place is growing and the community is growing around it, it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump right into it. So you've been a little busy. Let's talk about 5x5, all right? How did you even podcasting, that word was invented and a bunch of people had to legitimize it.
Yeah.
What was it like being part of that movement?
Oh yeah, so this is, you're absolutely right, that was like an invented thing. And it's weird because, back in the very old days, okay, how far back should I go? When I was here going to school, I started out, let me go back a little further. I wanted to go to UCF because I wanted to live in Orlando. It was much better than South Florida, which is where I was at the time. And I happened to I had a few years of guitar lessons, and I said, I want to go to UCF, how can I get in there? My GPA was awful, of course. And I thought, well, man, how am I going to get into this school? I can play guitar pretty well. And I applied to be a music major. And they said, all right, well, we need music majors, especially ones who can play classical guitar. I'm like, yeah, easy. So they let me in, and then I transitioned my major to communication major, which is what I really wanted to do. I wanted to be in radio, TV, RTV. I wanted to do the radio stuff. Yeah. And I talked to a couple people here. Do you guys still have Jim Phillips on the air here? Is he still here? Okay. I talked to him on the air, and he's like, don't go into this business. It's a nightmare business. He said, it's the worst. You're going to wind up in Kansas City playing jazz music at 2 a.m. And then the next day you're going to come in and you're going to have been fired because the place that you were working, that was a jazz station, it's going to be polka music and they're going to redo the entire station. You're going to have to move to some other place. He said, don't do this. He's like, what else do you do? I said, well, I'm pretty good at computers. He's like, how good? I said, well, my first computer was an Apple II when I was like 11 years old. I'm pretty good. He's like, do that. So I switched my major to computer science, but it was too hard. So I went back to because back then it was just math. It was all math, and you know what language we were programming in the classes? Modula. This is before Turbo Pascal was a big thing. Wow. Look it up. And so I wound up saying, well, what else can I do? I said, well, I am a good writer. I knew that. Like that was, and then I'm leading to something that's gonna. Dude, when you talked about figuring stuff out,
I'm wrapped.
When you talk about figuring stuff out, I'll get to that. So I said, all right, I know I'll become an English major. And that was easy for me. I had been writing. My mom is a recently retired college English professor. Like I've been writing on forever. So I said, all right, easy. I'll pick the easy thing. I'll get a degree, and then I'll just go into computers or radio or figure something out. Like figuring it out, like you said, as you go. And I never once had a job that paid me to write. I immediately went out, and back then, you were saying you were dating yourself. Hit counters, just hits, not page views. There was no such thing as a page view. There was no such thing as a unique visitor, which you touched on. It was just hits. And I knew how to write a CGI script in Perl that would save the number of views that a page had. That got me my first job out of school. That was all I needed because no one else could figure out how to do that. How weird is that, right?
Yeah.
But eventually just, found my way into other things. But I do have a point that I want to make later.
Okay.
When
you can make
so
it now.
ease us back into the conversation later about, so how did I get started?
Yeah.
So podcasting. So back then we used to have something called Shoutcast so that you could go and you could stream your radio station live. And I used to have, I was very inspired by the movie Pump Up the Volume with Christian Slater. It still probably holds up today. And that was a fun movie. He had a little pirate radio station. He would hijack the radio waves. And I thought, well, Shoutcast, we can hijack the radio waves. How much fun is that going to be? But of course, it was on the internet and nobody on a paper airplane. Did you see that one?
No.
That is on Kickstarter recently. That is the coolest thing ever. Yeah, you remote control your own paper airplanes with a little thing on it, and it got funded, and it's awesome. And so like that. Like you need to manufacture those. You need to hire people to like put them together and ship them. But if you're like writing something, just do it on evenings and weekends. And I remember before Gary Vaynerchuk, and I love picking on him because he's so awesome and he's so successful. He's like one of us, like made it. And so I can pick on him now. I don't care. But he said, he was, I forget which talk he was giving, but he was up on stage and he was talking to people about they're like, well, I don't know if there's time for me to do something. I guess I have to quit my job and take money to do it. He's like, no, you don't. You have from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. every night and all weekend, both days, to work on that side project, to do that side thing. Now, that was before you had a kid. It's different now. But for people like you in the audience who you don't have kids, you don't have tons of responsibility, you don't have incredible bills to pay, like now is your time to do this, and you will never have it so easy to do this kind of thing as you do now from the energy and time standpoint. What you may not have is the experience side of it, but that's when you've got to be not afraid to fail, right? You've got to be willing to figure something out. So that's I want to make a point about that, because I love what you said about that we're always figuring stuff out. Like people are like asking me advice about this kind. I'm like, the only reason I know anything is because I tried something related and failed miserably at it. And it's that not having that fear of failure, just being unafraid to fail when it's okay to fail. Like there's times when it's not okay to fail, but there are a lot of times when it's okay to say, you know what, I'm going to try this thing because this is an opportunity I have to really learn from it, and to fail and to say, all right, this may not work out, but I'm going to do it anyway, and if it doesn't work out, like I'll figure it out then. And so there is one thing that I've figured out about. The only thing I have figured out.
Take notes.
And it's easy for all of you. It'll only take you like another 20 years. Figure out what you're good at. I have figured out what I'm good at, and at the same time I've figured out what I'm not good at. I know, and there's a lot of things I'm not good at. And know what you're good at and be realistic about it. There are always going to be people who will be better than you at anything and everything that you do. That's not that important. Just know the things that you're good at and focus on those. And that doesn't mean ignore the things you're bad at and try to develop them, because we're all about bettering ourselves. But know what you're good at, and that will help you get a co-founder. That will help you. Why did you and Steve work so well together?
We loved video games, and just mutual respect for one another, and the fact that we complemented each other's strengths and weaknesses really well, like a good marriage.
Important. That's so important, right? And it is a marriage, though. Business is like a marriage.
Without sex.
Although from what I've heard from married people, it's just like marriage.
No comment.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah, no, I think I was lucky enough, like freshman year of college and moving days when I met Steve. So chances are,
that's crazy.
you're here full of other bright, excited young people. Like your next co-founder or whatever could be sitting next to you right now. Well, Dan, thank you so much. I really appreciate this. Clap it up for Dan Benjamin, everybody. Dan, thank you. Thank you very much. I have a couple closing remarks, and I totally forgot. In all my excitement, I forgot to show you the fireside that our chat would take place in front of. Oh well. Well, geez. Again, clap it up one more time for Dan.